Today, part of today's agenda, what we will discuss is let me take you to the agenda first before we move forward. Today, we will discuss the multi-org structure. Okay, so we'll look at the overview and the change compared to the EBS about the multi-org structure, and we will get into the details or at a detailed level when we discuss this part of the class, and we will discuss about the look and feel of the application. Okay, and then we will discuss about the role-based access control. I'll say simply role-based access control and what are the roles available and how role-based access control is taking a big leap in the Fusion applications that we'll discuss. Okay, so these are mainly few things, and other than that we'll discuss about the rest of the other things as well. So let me take you through the presentation here. Okay, so hope you're all able to see my screen. So part of the enterprise structure. Okay, here I think you're able to see the enterprise structure here. So this is the enterprise structure in Fusion applications, and we've got some changes when you compare it with the EBS R12. So here part of the enterprise structure, so we used to start with business group. Okay, in case of EBS, but here we've got enterprise as the top entity of our business. Okay, so the way we used to define business group, here we will have to define enterprise. It is a mandatory setup. Okay, so which stands as a top entity of our business. Okay, and then we'll have a division coming into the picture. Okay, let me take it into one Excel file. Enterprise or org structure, let's say. So here when I say enterprise, okay, I'll take an example of, okay, it's Tata group of companies. And then the division comes into the picture. So division is nothing but a subdivision of the business. Okay, so this is an optional feature where you will bifurcate their businesses. Let's say Tata is into multiple manufacturings and multiple businesses, right? So here you can say its IT is one of the division and their manufacturing is one of the division, and whatever is there other businesses that you can divide, or else if you would like to have a region wise bifurcation, you can also do it. Let's take the examples here. Okay, I will say Tata Asia and Tata America, or else say US, Tata Australia. So like that you can make the subdivisions of a business. Okay, and or else you can also do a bifurcation between their businesses, like, you know, it can be an IT division, for example, say consultancy services. Let's say I'll say TCS, which is an IT division, or and they are into motors, right? So Tata Motors. So like this, you can divide, okay, any of your business subdivisions, okay, below the enterprise. That is what your division, okay, and this is an optional feature, so it is not a mandatory. It's an additional feature along with the regular enterprise. So that is what the division. And next we have primary ledger, legal entity are the same, one and the same with the EBS. So the way we had primary ledger and legal entity, here also we have same way of operating it. Here and there are some small functionality changes when it is operating unit of our EBS structure. We are no more calling it as operating unit, it is business unit. Okay, so I'll say now primary ledger and legal entity, and we have business unit. Okay, so it is nothing but your operating units. Okay, where you would like to have the business is being operated an operating unit. So that is what your business unit here. Okay, so the business unit has a lot of extended functionalities here in Fusion applications. So, okay, where when business unit is used to get defined in EBS, okay, that means operating unit is get used to define. We did not have any business functionalities, or what is that the businesses or the work that we used to do. So there was no option to choose that business function. But here we can choose them. Okay, let's say we can have a requisitioning business unit. We can say procurement business unit, and you can use business unit for material management. You can use business unit for sales, which is for order entry, and again for payable invoice and receivable invoice. So like this, you can choose the business functions to be enabled for a business unit. So that is the beauty here. Okay, let's say in one of my operating unit or a business unit, I would only like to enable requisitioning because that particular BU is not authorized to create any purchase orders, and instead of that, one of the business unit would act as a service provider business unit and create purchase orders on behalf of that business unit. Okay, so this way I can create or I can make a shared service provider model, okay, with the by default enablement of the setup. Okay, so I don't need to do any customizations or anything because I have that particular feature available by default. Okay, so this way you can be able to define business units. Okay, and the next to it is we have departments is also one of the new feature or an additional feature or an optional feature where you can be able to track the employees based on the department. Let's say department can be sales department, manufacturing department, okay, so IT department. So like that you can have the departments being defined and also associated to your structure. Okay, and below which you have inventory of. So inventory of is again the same inventory of Okay, what we used to define. Okay, there are some changes here and there in the inventory org and item master organization and its definition. So that we will discuss in detail when we get into the classes. Okay, and below which you can have sub inventory. So the same way how we have in EBS. Okay, so like this we have multi org structure in Fusion applications, and these are the differences compared to the EBS, EBS and multi-org structure. Any questions here? So is this clear? Not clear? Are you getting? Not getting?
Division, can you explain a little bit on it? Because I see
Mhm.
you have given example like based on region or the
Mhm.
country, right? Tata Asia, Tata US, like
Right,
that.
right.
I mean, what is the need
Mhm.
when we compare with R12? What is the need that we need this? Because the legal entity itself has to deal with many things
Right.
and still doing division, then why it has come into cloud like this?
So that is how it has become an optional feature or a additional feature. Okay, if you would like
Yeah,
to
optional
draw.
means we
Mhm.
have to use it, right? In case
Mhm.
there could be some scenario where
Mhm.
business, when we implement something, the business would definitely need that. We don't know really where exactly we need to fit this division. How?
Correct. So here this is exactly where it comes is it is a subdivision of your business. Okay, so whether you would like to use it or don't use it, it is up to you. But only the thing what you can do with the division is you can have a subdivision of the business. Okay, it can be any subdivision. Let's say it's a region wise or your product line wise, or else even any other thing below to the enterprise. Okay.
Okay, so is it associated to the legal entity?
Yeah, it is associated to the legal entity. Okay, so
Mhm.
legal entity is also associated. But when you would like to define divisions or you want to make them part of your enterprise structure, so the way you will have to define the multi-org structure is different other than the regular way of definition. So that we will discuss when we get into the definition of multi-org structure. And I will also show you some of the pictures where you will clearly understand, okay, with the which are showing how that particular enterprise structure reflects so that you yourself.
And will you demonstrate us in the system as to how the structure is defined?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
we
thanks.
will take you through that. Okay, that is how you have your multi-org structure. So let us move forward. So there are some of the key terminologies and functionalities which has been adapted from few of the applications. Okay, so here you can see and understand. Okay, Fusion versus EBS versus PeopleSoft. So when I say it as enterprise in Fusion applications, so it was like an ultimate legal entity or a business group in our EBS, and it is a company in PeopleSoft. Okay, so division was not there in both of them. So division is a new concept, and business unit was the operating unit. Okay, we used to call business unit only in PeopleSoft. And here, department is an HR organization in our EBS suite, and a department was a department in PeopleSoft. Okay, the department activity, what we are doing is much beyond than the HR organization activities which we have done. So it's not only a HR organization which actually got HR or employees associated, but it has got even more functionalities to it. And a legal entity is a legal entity and company in PeopleSoft. So reference data sets is a whole together new concept which has been acquired from PeopleSoft, where you can link all your setup entities with the reference data sets that you define and
Raj,
associated.
this
Yeah.
It's optional, right?
Yeah, yeah, department is also optional.
Uh,
Okay. So reference data set is a set ID of PeopleSoft. So now it is one of the key features of Fusion applications where you can reference the data, whether to show it or to use it within a business unit or across the business unit or at the enterprise level. Okay, how do you would like to use that reference data set by referencing your setup information, whichever you define, whether you would like to use it across the enterprise, which is applicable or available for all the business units, or you would only restrict to a specific business unit. So that is how we have a reference data set controlling the setup and its sharing security. So that we will discuss in detail. Okay, I'll move on. Okay. So this is what the look and feel of Fusion applications. I think most of you might have already seen. So where you will have a navigator once you log in, which will give you the list of tasks that you can perform based on the roles that are associated to you and the roles which will give you privileges to work on anything. And we will discuss what that roles and privileges are in the coming slides. And then you have all these setup, if it is a setup or if it is a transaction that you're going to do, it is all from your navigator. And you can also be able to find these all tasks from your home screen, okay, which is the next slide. Okay, so this is what your home screen, and the icons which you are able to find is are your springboard icons. We call it as a springboard. Okay, so these are nothing but again the privileges or the tasks that you've got with your role, and you would be able to perform these activities. So all these are inherited based on the role and the privileges associated to you. So that's how a role is crucial here, and for everything and anything you need a role that needs to get associated, and then only you will be able to access the application. So each of this particular box with the name represents certain roles and privileges to you, okay, based on which you will get into that particular form and you will be able to do that setup or transaction. Okay, and with on the left hand side you will be able to see a social or social connect. So we are calling it as OSN, Oracle Social Networking, by which you will be able to find yourself along with the other employees of the enterprise, and you will be able to create conversations based on the tasks that you're performing, and you can involve people and you can take their views, take their inputs, and you can suggest them. Okay, and you can be able to have more clarity and vision on what is that the tasks that you're performing. Okay, so for an example, if you have some questions or need some clarity, okay, based on some payable invoice approval or let's say purchase order approval, you will just take that particular purchase order. Okay, from there you can create a conversation and you can involve the people whoever can give you that information, so that they automatically gets notified once the conversation is created, and they can be able to find your concerns and can give their inputs on that, and you will be able to be in a position to again get them back through a notification, and then you can be able to understand the whatever is needed on that. So that's how this is one of the beauty of our fusion applications. Okay, the OSN. So by default, whoever is the person gets created in the fusion application, you will get OSN being associated automatically. Okay, you don't need any privileges for that. let's move on. So one of the page where you can find a supply creation. So as we are having no more forms, it is completely the ADF pages. So we will only deal with the ADF pages here. So one of the setup that you can be able to see is supply creation. And we've got here and there some of the changes when you compare it with the definition of EBS, so that we will get into it elaboratively and understand where is that differences that we have and what is that the improvements that we've got when you compare it with EBS in each of the setup that we will do, and we will go through each of it comparing with our EBS practice. Okay, and then this is the purchase order creation. Okay, and then this is sales order creation page. So like this, you have each of the task or a transaction that can be performed, okay, and in a very new way. So we'll take that. So any questions till now? So let's get into the role-based access control. Okay, RBAC, which is nothing but the role-based access control. Okay, the key driven factor of any privilege or any role. Okay, it's completely controlled by role-based access control. So what is that the role-based access control is consists of? Now that we are going to see it. So there are some multiple roles that we have. Okay, so which would administer the privileges what the user is going to have based on its association to the user, and which will govern what the user is going to access or set up or what he is going to do. Okay, all that is governed by the role which is associated to the person. So now let's get into the types of roles here, which are job role, duty role, data role, and abstract role. We will get into an Excel file and understand clearly what is that these roles are all about. I'll say roles, job role, duty role, data role, and abstract role. Okay, these are the four roles. Okay, part of the Fusion role-based access control. So for each of the release, okay, currently we are in release 12 and release 13 is also going to arrive. So each of the release, so we have got some of the changes from uh, uh, release-wise perspective, okay, in role-based access control. So previously in release 11 we had APM and IDM, Authorization Policy Manager and Oracle Identity Manager, okay, where we used to define the roles and we used to associate it to the persons. But now we are all doing that definition part of security console. Okay, so that how we will do it. So we'll show you in this respective classes, but here we will understand in detail what all these roles are. Okay, a job role. Let's take an example of procurement manager. Okay, and what are the duties to it? Duty role is nothing but the duties of a job role. For example, what duties you will have for a procurement manager? Let's say purchase order administration. Okay, and then purchase agreement administration. And then requisition line processing. And what else can a procurement manager do? Tell me. So all those are nothing but the duties. Okay. So here let us try to understand the two things here. A job role, for an example, procurement manager is nothing without the duty roles which are associated to a procurement manager job role. Okay, so by which you will be able to in a position to understand a procurement manager or a job role is nothing without the privileges or the duties if they are not associated, like purchase order administration, purchase agreement administration, and requisition line processing, etc., etc., etc. All those are duty roles that are associated, or duties or privileges that are associated. Okay, if they are associated, then only a job role gets the authority or a privilege to access these things. Okay, otherwise, without a duty or a duty role, there is no job role which is going to get the privileges. Okay, so that's how we've got these two types of roles. So, any questions here? No questions?
No, Raj.
Yeah. So here, for an example, I would like to customize these duties or do some changes. Okay, where my procurement manager should be able to having or should have the administration to purchase orders, but he should only be having a view access to my purchase agreements. Okay, so can I do that? I can be able to do it. What I'll do is I'll remove this particular duty and I'll add purchase agreement view. So for every access we have the duties or privileges available by default in the system. So all you need to do is you need to search and associate it with a duty role and which gets associated to the job role. This way I can be able to customize or create roles as per my requirement and which is endless. So that's how you can be able to drive the duty and which is associated to the job. Okay, that is what your job role and duty role. The next role is data role. Okay, so what is data? Okay, you've got a job role and duty role associated, but which has got no restriction. Okay, no restriction means what? I have given my employee the access of procurement manager, which has got duties or duty role associated of purchase order administration, purchase agreement administration, requisition line processing, and blah blah blah. So which has got a lot of privileges associated with it. But I would like to restrict him to access only one data or one set of data, which is specified or bifurcated by the business unit. Okay, so that means, or therefore, I would like my user to access only the US procurement data, not anything else. Okay, so that's how I will associate my user a role which has got context of the US data. I'll say US BU. Okay, now my procurement manager only be able to access the US procurement data. not anything else. Because I would like the users to restrict or to only look at their activities in which field they are, not anything else. That's how I'll control my security, or I'll draw a line between my business units employees to access their activities and have a security and no breach.
Raj,
Okay. Yeah.
this data role I see is more like R12's operating unit's profile option. The transactions that you perform are specific to operating unit are based on the profile option. So here we are calling the data role, right?
Yes, but we've got much more than that. Okay. It's not simply the profile option, which actually gives him the access to a specific business unit, but we've
Mhm.
got a lot more to it. The security is more enhanced. Okay. So that's
More
how,
secure.
yeah, it has
Mhm.
got more features than that. Okay, similar
Mhm.
to what you have told, but has got more to do with that. So
Got
that's
you.
how we will give the access to a business unit, specific business unit. So that is your third role, where you will associate a data role to your user, so who will have got access to only specific data in which he is working or in which he is supposed to access, not all. Okay, that is how we've got the third role, because we will only be associating the data roles, guys, not any free roles like our job role, which has got all the duties. We will not do that. We will only assign the data roles specific to their BU. So, but in till release 11, we had data roles being generated automatically based on the business unit creation or ledger creation. Okay, but here we did not have that functionality in release 12. We don't have that data roles generation anymore, but we have got some different way of doing it. So we will give the security data context. Okay, that security context we will associate with the business unit or the inventory organization or the ledger, whatever is your security data context that we will associate it. Okay, so that is how we'll access a data role and give access to a set of data to the user, right? And then you have an abstract role, which is kind of a seeded or a symbolic role, which has got some privileges or a default privileges. For an example, we'll have employee, buyer. So like this, we've got some of the seeded roles, or very few are available. So those are nothing but your abstract roles. Okay. So these has also got some of the privileges. For an example, an employee, if you associate, he will get access to your schedule process, okay, and his employment details, that whatever is his profile that he can look up to. So there are some of the privileges that are also got associated with the employee role, which is a abstract role. And for a buyer, and again, what a buyer can do, like purchase order creation and maybe its approval and whatever activities that he can do, those are some of the privileges associated with the buyer role. So that's how these are some seeded roles, okay, or roles that are abstract roles. So four types of roles that we have, and you've got any questions in this?
Raj, just one thing. So this job role, is it the job role defined into HRMS itself? I mean, does it flow in from the HRMS?
No, it does not flow from HRMS.
So this will be the job roles created differently. Okay.
Okay, there are all the job roles are available, okay, which are relevant for each of the functionality that we perform. Okay, what we will do is we will assign or disassign some of the privileges or duties, whichever is not needed. But all the job roles, whatever are needed for us to do the setups or transactions in the future instance, we've got all that. being already created. Security console is an application which administer all these roles, not HRMS.
Okay, yeah, got you. Thank you.
Hey, Raj,
Raj, one
Mhm.
more thing.
Yeah.
Employee role also will create from the security role or from the HRMS.
This is a seeded role. It is a seeded role. It is by default. You will have this particular role available. So this will not get created. And all the roles, guys. No, there's no HRMS comes into the picture here. Okay, for creating any roles, or if it is any other application, does not come into the picture. It is only the security console which can create the new roles other than the existing job roles or administer the existing job roles, whatever are existing, and this its assignment and de-assignment, all that you can be able to administer with security console. Okay.
hey, Raj, one
Mhm.
question here. Can
Yes.
a person having a multiple job role?
Yeah, definitely. Why not? A person can be a procurement manager, okay, and can also be a supplier manager because he also has the privilege to administer the supplier, and he can also have a category manager role. Just let me take you through one of the slide which will give you answer to it. So now you can be able to see it here, right? The person, whoever is sitting here, he is a procurement manager, category manager, and also sometimes a warehouse manager. Okay, these are all job roles which has got relevant duty roles associated to it, which has got some privileges, and they are obviously be restricted to some set of data. Let's say if it is procurement manager, he would access the US procurement data, and if it is category manager has got access to the sourcing activities like your negotiations creation, RFQs creation. So that is also to a specific BU. And if it is warehouse manager, he will also got some of the inventory access to the relevant inventories available under US business units. That's how a person can have multiple job roles, okay, and he will perform all that jobs.
I'm sorry. Is it related to only specific OU or any other OU business unit?
Sorry, I did not get that question.
See, for example, this particular person is assigned for Bangalore,
Hmm.
so he may also manager in Hyderabad. Is
Okay.
it like this?
Yeah, you can have him if you want to give him the access for multiple business units. You can give it. Okay, that again depends on your business structure or enterprise structure, how you operate.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay.
We will assign two roles over there
Yeah,
against other OU.
right. So we'll only
Okay,
associate the data role to give the access to him. Okay.
okay,
How
okay.
many ever data roles got access, the relevant or the different roles will give him that different accesses. Okay. So we will go ahead.
Job duties, job duty under one job role would be same across full enterprise, or I would say under full across the company. If I have a procurement manager, the
Mhm.
job duties under that procurement manager would be the same, or we can include depend on the department or something.
Yeah, again, that is again based on the requirement. You can personalize the role or the by default available job role, whatever is there. But if you would like to make any changes or personalize according to your requirement, you can be able to do it. But otherwise, a job role is again same to all the departments or across the enterprise.
Thank you.
So across the business OUs also it is possible.
See, that is what I'm saying. Here, a job role, a plain job role is what? Okay, has got some duties. Okay,
Correct.
when I say a procurement manager role, okay,
Yes.
so which has got these are the duties available. If at all they are not restricted by a data, a procurement manager can access all that business units, whatever is available. But Fusion security or role based access control does not allow in such a way. Okay, he must have a access to or all the entities. Okay,
Okay.
so he should only specific, he should be specific in accessing specific data. If you would like him to access multiple business units, then assign multiple business units data, which will give him respectively to that particular specific business units. But if you give him a specific job role, that will not allow or give him access of all the business units. It is, you will have to specifically go to that particular data and give access, and then save and then come out. That will give him the access.
Okay.
Okay.
So Raj, that means like without duty role, it is nothing for procured job role. So
Yeah.
similar the case for data role as well, right?
Right. Absolutely right. So let's move on. So there are some specific data securities here. Okay, part of your procurement activities. Okay, you've got a procurement agent being created. Okay, this is one of the setup. The way how we have a buyer setup available. So we have procurement agent is the same setup, but it has got again a very improved way. So you've got a lot of new functionalities enabled within the procurement agent. You can give an access to other agents' documents to view or to administer. Okay, so like your purchase orders, requisitions, agreements, negotiations, and supplier related stuff, all that, so that you will define it, the access in the procurement agent setup. Okay, so this is one more layer of security other than the roles and them being roles being associated to the person. You also need to have a procurement agent access for creating the documents like purchase orders and administering them. Okay, so here this is some of the documents, and the procurement agent can be able to access them provided based on the request is being given or enabled. Okay, he can manage requisitions, manage purchase orders, and manage catalog content, manage suppliers, manage approved supplier list entries, spend analysis, and supplier qualification. So I'll move to the next slide where you'll better understand this procurement agent setup. So now you can see it here. When I define a procurement agent, I would define the access to him where he will access to the other agent's documents. Okay, whether if they are the requisitions, whether he can be able to get a view access or a full access or none. Whether it is completely allowed to him or not. If I deselect or not check this particular checkbox, he will not be getting any access to the other procurement agents requisitions which are created. And in case of purchase orders, again the same, whether it is view, full, or none. So like this, you can set up or you can ensure that there is a one more layer of security in accessing the documents which are created by the other agents. Okay, so thus this procurement agent setup is one of the mandatory setup for you to complete your procurement activities. Any questions here?
These
Yeah,
setups will be
like
given by
art.
system administrator.
Uh, uh, come again. Come again,
Yeah, fine.
please.
These setups will be that means these roles to be assigned to the particular manager. Like these and all setups to be given by system administrator generally in EBS like this. Any
So in ABS, yeah, system administrator will have all that privileges to assign the roles. But here, let's say the procurement manager, we will actually have an implementation consultant or an implementation manager who will administer the project, the implementation project. We will create that implementation project in the next
FSMB.
classes. He will actually associate the roles. Okay, he has got the entire privilege in creating or defining the setups or associating the roles or creating the new roles and then associating. So who will actually create the procurement agents? Okay, so he
So
will
Raj,
decide.
this comes under the functional security manager. Yesterday we discussed.
Yeah, it is part of
Yeah.
FSM, right? So in FSM, this
And
is an FSM setup.
just trying to compare, this is like a document type in Artwell, purchasing document types.
Right, right. In purchasing documents type, how we have owner can view, owner can approve. There are some
Yeah.
checkboxes, right? But here, also along with that, you will also administer the other agent's documents. That is what,
Mhm.
again, an additional feature. Along with an individual access, he will also be able to administer, or the project implementation manager can also be administering whether the person or a procurement agent supposed to be accessing the other agent's documents. If yes, up to what level it is, whether it is view or full access.
And can we assume that procurement agent access is a role and rest of the things are the duties for that role?
No, no, this is not a role. These are not duties. This is a specific setup. Okay, but which also is one of the type of security, one of the layer. You can think it as one of the layer when it comes to procurement.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move further. So this is some of the deployment environments. So for each of the, okay, implementation that is going on, so generically you will have two of the instances. One is your test environment or a stage environment, and the other is a production. But based on the request, you can have multiple, even more instances than this also, based on your case scenario. But as an initial implementation went on, so these are the two instances that were there and mostly being used. So one is testing, where you will set up all that and testing, test the data, and then you will move to the production. So that is how the environments we have in the procurement cloud, procurement or SCM in Fusion Cloud. So in case of your non-production cloud environment, okay, you can be able to set up your data and you can be able to conduct your trainings, and then you can apply or any configurations prior to the migrations. It is kind of an all trial and error that you can be able to perform, and you will be only moving that particular validated setups to the production, which is finally you're going to use. So this particular test environment can be refreshed as per the request, as complete maintenance would be handled by the Oracle itself. So you can be able to request if at all any refreshes are needed. Okay, even we might also have seen our demo instances being refreshed based on a, okay, scheduled timelines. So this way, if it is your own live instance, you can request for the refresh or any other activities, okay, based on the requirement. So if it is the production environment, the production environment here, you are sized for production user loads, and here also you've got some monthly maintenances, okay, to give you the best features based on the new releases. Okay, like if you are in release 12, so based on the regular maintenance activities, you can get up onto the next features. The way how we have got a mobile application or system is getting updated. Let's say a new OS or new features, whichever is getting created or updated based on a scheduled maintenance, you'll get a notification, right? For your mobile, if it is an iOS or if it is any other OS. So based on that, so the same way, similarly, we've got some of the maintenance activities, and the service provider owns it completely. You need not to do anything, and within that particular maintenance, you will also have the latest features being adapted by your system. Okay, whichever is scheduled in that particular time. And now we will discuss some of the roles which are relevant for us to set up our enterprise. Okay, we've got application implementation manager and application implementation consultant. These are the setup roles. So typically these particular roles will have got managing the implementation projects and then setting up the implementation projects. And the functional user roles are typically your transactional roles, which are like your procurement manager or supplier manager or category manager. So that is again, they are the user roles, okay, not the super user or setup user roles. So we'll get into each of these and understand now. We'll move forward. So let's take an example, or we'll discuss about application implementation manager, overall implementation of the cloud application. Okay, whatever is your cloud within which, if you are implementing, you will know the offerings and you will configure the offerings. You will generate the list of setup tasks. Okay, what is that? The tasks that can be performed within an offering, and in that, what are mandatory tasks, what are non-mandatory tasks, that list of tasks that you can generate it from an implementation offering, part of the implementation project, and you can monitor the project. Let's say if you have multiple projects, okay, multiple implementation projects, you can be able to monitor what is the progress of that particular projects and where are they currently and what is their deadlines and how many tasks that are completed and how many that are due, let's say by this month, and then how many that are yet not started, which are overdue. So that way you can be able to administer the entire project by looking at the monitor, okay, monitor progress. So these options are available for your implementation manager. Okay, so that is your application implementation manager role. And next you have an application implementation consultant. So this role fulfills the complete implementation. That means it can set up anything, okay, and everything part of your offerings whichever is associated to your project. Okay, let's say for an example, I've got some of the financials and supply chain related offerings which are getting implemented in this particular phase. Okay, so I'll associate financials, and part of supply chain I'll associate procurement offering, and I'll associate material management and logistics, and I'll also associate the cost management, and then I'll associate order management. So these are all offerings. Guys, when I say offerings, don't get confused. They are nothing but the modules. Okay, so when it comes to cloud, we are calling it as offerings, but in EBS, we used to call them as modules. Okay, so once I associate those particular offerings to my implementation project, my implementation consultant can set up anything out of those particular offerings which are associated in the project. So this is kind of a crucial role which can set up any data or anything out of those particular offerings. So when you get into these particular phases, so in the plan stage, you will know the offerings and configure, and when you are implementing it, you will collect the data and enter the setup data, and when you are deploying it, what is that the setups that needs to be deployed. That means out of whatever that you have done, whichever is important, or all that setup what you have done it in the testing, you will move it to the production, okay, in the deploy phase. So these are unlike the project phases that we are now following, because as we know that the project implementation time has been completely reduced. We are no more doing that years and years of implementation anymore. Okay, so you will have simply phases like this where you plan, where you implement, and you completely deploy it. Okay, so each of this particular phase would have got these particular tasks, or the activities would be done by your implementation consultant. Okay, so where you will do all of this in this particular phases. So any questions here?
Raj, just a question which might be a little out of context here. I could see the testing phase here as well. Just had a curiosity for R12 and all in APS, we have OATS and some other tools as well, but OATS is the general tool that we use for testing the Java-based forms. So for these ADFs, has OATS been upscaled or like are there any other tools in the market?
Like you can integrate with any of the tool here. So integration is like a cakewalk. Okay, it
Okay.
can be Words or it can be any other testing tool. It can be Panaya or it can be the ALM, whatever it can be. So you can simply do an integration and have your own test scripts which will execute and then give you the results. So that integration is very much convenient. There's no issues with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Then the functional owners here, they will collect the data and enter the setup data and test and verify import. Okay, so this is mostly like your user roles. So who will actually do the transactions, and you can briefly understand the phases, the three phases. Okay, part of your implementation project where you plan whatever is that offerings that you're going to implement part of it, and you will generate the setup and task list. How do you generate it? That we will see it when we define an implementation project in the further classes, and then customize the setup tasks. So we will do it only if it is optional. Okay, you will whenever it is required, and then you will collect the data and enter the setup data and test. Then you will deploy it into the production environment once they are validated with the export and import processes from the test environment. And if at all it is from legacy system, as again you will do it through interfaces, so that particular flexibilities are available. Okay, so you can also understand this application implementation life cycle. Okay, so like this, the way we have discussed just now, these are again similar to that: plan, configure, implement, export. Okay, here export or import has got something new to understand, where you can import the data from your test instance to production. Okay, through a configuration package where you can be able to take the data that is already configured in your test environment, and through a configuration file you can directly move it to the production instance. That actually eliminates all your resetting up of the instance and then loading of the data, okay, up to some extent. So that is kind of an easy process. Okay, how do you do that? We will also discuss through a configuration package. Okay, I'll move forward. This is some of the minimum requirements for your machine to have in case when you're using the Fusion applications. Okay, although it is not that much mandatory to know. So the strategy here, so how we can be able to have Fusion applications on a middleware. These are all set up on a middleware layer, and beneath that you have database, and the database is on an operating system, whatever is your operating system on which it sits, and you have a virtual machine. You can have a virtual machine controlling all this about two virtual machines, and you have a server and which has got storage. Like this, you will have a complete package or a solution being given by your cloud, okay, which can be leveraged without doing any process or tasks or set of activities that we used to do when we are setting up on premise. Okay, so this is what the strategy of Fusion Cloud here.